So, for those of you who are keen-eyed or who can see very blatant product placement in the background, my good friends at Jetpack7, the sponsors of my 20K YouTube subscriber giveaway, recently released this book right here, Gods and Goddesses Redux. They had released a previous version of this. You've heard me talk about their Legendary Dragons book in the past. But I'm going to be doing a review and kind of hitting on the highlights of what's in this book. So if you've seen it in the background, you're curious, you want to know what's inside, and you want to get a discount on an order you place to get it, stay tuned. So first of all, if you haven't picked up a Jetpack 7 book, I highly recommend it. The books are really nice, and they have there's a certain texture to the cover, you know, where like a wizard's book has that very like shiny, slippery feel. I don't know, this is really dumb, and maybe ASMR, I don't know, but can you hear this? It's like it's clearly got like the print and the art is amazing. That's one thing you'll see about any Jetpack 7 product. The art is amazing. So we'll look at some art here in just a sec. And I do have a PDF version of it, which is something you can get. You can get the hardcover or the PDF or both. So something to consider. But it has like almost like a matte kind of feel to it. I don't know. I just really like I have to put this down. I really like the way it feels. Once again, thank you to the folks at Jetpack 7 for sponsoring this video as I'm talking about one of their cool products. And they are good friends and gave me the hookup. So here we go. Here is the PDF. It is nice because it does have tags on the side. I know that may sound dumb, but there are plenty of PDFs. I get a ton of stuff submitted to me for review from all sorts of different sources. And folks, this bookmarks that take you to places, you gotta have it in your PDF, right? Let's take a look at our table of contents. So you'll see it was a Kickstarter product, so there's backer lists of who supported it. And there are several different deities, or really avatars of deities, and they span a broad spectrum of different mythologies, right? So some of these that I recognize, and I'll be completely honest with you, I only know of some of them, honestly, by reading American Gods, or just I've heard of it, but a lot of them I don't really know the lore behind the deity, or, you know, what exact what culture it's from. But ones that I obviously recognize, right? Anansi, because I read American Gods, Athena, Greek mythology, Baba Yaga. I don't actually know what nationality or like culture Baba Yaga is from. It might be Russian, maybe, but I know of Baba Yaga because I know of hags and things like that. Freya being Norse, Hecate being Greek. I know the name Ishtar, Shiva. I know Chernabog, I know the name, and I think that's also American Gods. And then, obviously, Thor. And then I happen to read the book already, so I know Vivian is like the Lady of the Lake, so Arthurian legend. There are several different class features. There's basically either like a Bardic College, a Paladin Oath, or a Cleric Domain. Pretty much, if not multiple, for every deity. There are miniature adventure sections in here as well. And then we have the appendices has different creature stats. It has special magic items, special items. Then we have spells, weapons, and some powers and some other things here. So I'm going to go through and hit on a couple just to talk to some things about it. So we can take a look at the intro here. So how to use this book. Options for a GM are a wonderful thing. Can't argue there. You can assist in bringing in new elements to your current campaign setting, add them to an existing setting, or create an entirely new world based around these gods and goddesses. What motivates your clerics and paladins? What are their new abilities and spells will your players use? Has there ever been a time where a character could encounter such a divine being? Well, now you can have stats for things. Gods and goddesses within at their disposal. Many companions rather will assist them when called upon. So it's just a good resource for additional gods and goddesses. And as someone who has been talking about homebrew stuff a lot, this is obviously, as I've said before, and I've mentioned in DM tipping videos, right? steal everything. Use what you want in your different games. If you like a pantheon from a given campaign setting or real world, use that. But there's no reason that you can't insert other deities in there where you see fit, or take them and use them as an inspiration for your own deities, or maybe the portfolio that that deity has is something that you like. So I'm going to look at, I think we'll maybe look at two different deities here. I feel like Thor is too on the nose. So I think we're going to look at Vivian because I like that one. And let's go Hecate, right? So goddess of crossroads and the underworld, right? So that's Hecate in Greek mythology. Home plane anywhere. Her symbol is a black dog and crossed keys, and she is chaotic neutral. So, lives on the fringes, ignoring the power broking of the inner circle of deities, ambivalent, polymorphous goddess with no care for anything but herself. And oh, I guess I should say we should take a look at, there's some art here, right? Beautiful, beautiful Jetpack 7 art. Look at that. So there's, I mean, and it does go into depth. We have a little bit about her and what her potential opposites are. This is Ishtar is a good foil for Hecate. Her dogma, so what are you going to be kind of following under there? Understand the unknowable. Her manners and domains exist before time. She's primordial and all-powerful. Makes it difficult to describe her values to others, but wherever there's dark magic, Hecate is there. I also know of Hecate a lot from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because a couple of the characters used to beseech Hecate for magic. Anyway, so clergy and temples. Temples are complicated matter for Hecate. Everyone knows the goddess's name and power, but few people openly worship her. She's an old world goddess, fickle and cruel. Clerics of the dark goddess keep their association a secret. Paladins are altogether different. Hecate's holy warriors fear nothing. Goddesses of light and dark, of night and the bright full moon. She holds on a knife's edge the cautious balance of good and evil, for the darkness is only the other half of light. To know this is true power. We have a little bit about her worshippers and who typically worships Hecate. Hecate, depending on how you pronounce it. There's some art. And then we have a stat block, right? So it's an avatar, not necessarily the deity itself. Something, right, deities and demigods used to be a book way back in the day, and that book gave you stats for the actual gods. We've discussed this. It's even in Horde of the Dragon Queen. You can, or Rise of Tiamat. There's a Tiamat stat block in the back, but it's like, this isn't really Tiamat. You shouldn't be able to defeat a god. Challenge rating 30. Just bananas here. Look at these saving throws. Immunity to necrotic, poison, radiant, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic. Immunity to blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, and stunned. When she drops to 0 hit points, when her avatar drops to 0 hit points, it's destroyed, but her essence travels back to the last plane she was on. Intercept prayer. As a reaction, she can counter any spell cast by a paladin or cleric within 60 feet. Target must make a DC 26 Wisdom saving throw. On a fail, the spell's effects are under the control of Hecate, and she can choose to either negate them or have them affect any creature or group of creatures of her choosing. She has a frightful presence. Not too high of a DC, surprisingly. Only DC 15, given the fact that her Intercept Prayer ability is a DC 26. That may be a typo? Not sure. She does not need to concentrate to maintain spells because she's a god, or at least they're near that. Mistress of Spells, innate spellcasting, save DC of 26 and a plus 18 to hit. She can innately cast any spell requiring no material components. Hecate has 3 heads and 6 eyes. She cannot be flanked or surprised and has advantage on initiative rolls. She has an innate mental haze around her. Any creature within 15 are at disadvantage on attack rolls. Brutal, you don't want to fight her. She's a god. She can summon hellhounds, 9 elite hellhounds, which is a stat block we will look at later. She has 4 legendary actions. 2, she can do Blessed Punishment. A ray of sickly green light blasts from her eyes in the form of a disintegration ray. DC 26 dex save or take 13d6 plus 40 force damage. If it reduces you to 0, you're disintegrated. Disintegrated creature and everything is wearing is carrying except magic items are reduced to a pile of ash. The list legendary action automatically disintegrates a larger, smaller, non-magical object or creature of non-magical force. If it's huge or larger, this legendary action dissipates with no result. You can do 2 to do life to death. It's a 10-foot wide cone of necrotic energy. All creatures within the cone must make a DC 26 con save. On a success, nothing happens. On a failure, they're reduced to half hit point. Is reduced to half its hit point maximum and knocked prone. At the end of its turn, it must make another DC 26 con save. If it fails the saving throw, it's cursed and cannot be healed by magical means for 24 hours. Additionally, if it fails on a death saving throw under the next 24 hours, it immediately becomes a zombie. A remove curse or greater restoration spell removes this curse. She can choose as her legendary action to be immune to any spell of 6th level or lower. I like that that's a legendary action, not something she always has, because that means like you could potentially hit her if she uses her other legendary actions. Or 2 actions, she can immediately cast any evocation or necromancy spell with a casting time of 1 action, 1 bonus action, or 1 reaction. And then magically teleport to an unoccupied space she can see for 1 legendary action. So that's what we're kind of looking at. We're going to do Vivian next here, the Lady of the Lake. Also, again, awesome art. Kind of gives me like a Merida vibe. But like badass. Super cool. Water pouring from a vessel, a maiden standing in rushing water. Home plane is Avalon, right? It makes kind of sense there, right? In theory, that's where our, Camelot and everything is. So I didn't actually think in my knowledge of Arthurian legend that she was a god. I knew she was a very powerful figure, but I guess there's no reason she couldn't be a goddess. So Vivian can swim into psychic domains and help with inspiration. She appears in dreams, offering guidance or advice through swimming metaphors. Cleric and paladins of Vivian commune with nature, specifically pure and unspoiled lakes and streams. It also understands her ideal of greater good. While other gods and goddesses may shy away from cutting away creations that no longer serve a purpose, Vivian's paladins are specifically dedicated to ridding the world of any abhorrence that harms the well-being of the whole. There's no central temple to her either, but she be worshipped at lakes and streams. And then again, some on her worshippers. And then here's her stat block, another challenge rating 30. Again, I think we're going to see a lot of the similar stuff in the immunities and whatnot. Aura of Verity. When a creature first enters the area within 30 feet of Vivian, they must make a DC 18 wisdom save, or be compelled to tell the truth. On a success, they are immune for the next 24 hours. She can breathe water and air normally. When she drops to 0 hit points, her body discorporates. That's simple. Entrap. She may entrap a creature she can see within 30 feet twice a day. DC 25 charisma saving throw or become comatose. On her choosing, she may teleport to the creature into a dimensional space inside a tree, rock, or cave within 15 feet. The creature is aware of its surroundings and can see and hear, but is unable to move or speak inside the tree, rock, or cave. The creature does not need to eat or breathe or age until while they're under the effect. The effect is permanent until Dispel Magic cast at 9th level is done. She can choose to end the effect at any time, and a Wish spell also ends its effect. When the effect ends, the creature appears in an unoccupied space within 10 feet. On success on that 25 charisma saving throw, they're put to sleep for 1d4 rounds. The effect ignores any immunity to enchantments. Sleeping creatures simply fall to the ground harmlessly and are prone. Creatures who successfully save are immune for 24 hours. Grace of the Queen thrice per day. She can choose to bestow any or all of the following effects upon one target. Greater Restoration, Lesser Restoration, Power Word Heal, and True Resurrection. She may not take another action until the following turn. Oops. She has innate spellcasting with a DC of 26 and a plus 18 to hit. At will, resistance, and shillelagh 3 times per day each. Control water, conjure elemental, create or destroy water, moonbeam, sleet storm, 2 times per day each. Heal and plane shift, 1 time per day each. Control weather, true resurrection. 3 legendary resistances, which is interesting because the last god didn't have legendary resistance, but she does. Shapeshifter, she can assume the form of a large or smaller creature. She assumes the hit points of the new form. It's just as any large or smaller creature, I guess. She retains the number of hit points she had before she transformed, unless the new form is capable of such actions as speech. She cannot perform such actions. Trout form, you can shift form between a humanoid and a large, colorful trout. It's nearly distinguishable from other trout. Only DC 24 insight check reveals that there's something special about it. A DC 24 Arcana or Religion check reveals that it's her. She can walk across water. She has multi-attack. She has Excalibur as her weapon, 2 attacks per round, 2 melee attacks, or casts 1 spell and makes 1 melee attack. Excalibur plus 17 to hit, 10-foot reach, 2d10 plus 8 slashing damage, and it's in the book, so we'll go look at that later. Legendary action, Water Nyx for 2 actions. Can use Control Water, Tsunami, or Wall of Force. Divine Word for 2 actions. Uses Excalibur for 1. I assume that's to make an attack. It doesn't say. It just says she uses it. Move, 1 action, moves up to her speed without provoking attacks of opportunity. Teleport, 20 feet from any form of fresh water. Okay. She desires, any space she desires within 20 feet of a form of fresh water. And then she also has the opportunity to do the spell immunity thing as well. And see, here's the next one. This was, here we're into the archetypes. Okay. So here you can see, like, right for Anansi, there's Devious Spider Domain, Stolen Knowledge, and so on. So let's take a couple. I think we're probably going to just stick with what we did. I'm trying to think if any of these really jumped out at me, right? So Baba Yaga, for example, was a warlock patron. Kind of makes sense. So Hecate was the self domain. And then the Oath of the Crossroads. We have an Avalon domain and a Knight of Avalon. So Knight of Avalon is, and that's really the one I wanted to go over. You know, let's just look at both for the Lady of the Lake. I'm feeling a very Arthurian mood. I don't know. I like the art. She reminds me of Merida from Brave, but like a god and more badass. So, the Avalon domain, you get the following domain spells: Cure Wounds, Sanctuary, Gentle Repose, Spiritual Weapon, Beacon of Hope, Remove Curse, Control Water, Guardian of Faith, Greater Restoration, Mass Cure Wounds. At those different domain levels. At first level, you have Blessing of Avalon. While in heavy armor, you gain a +1 to all saving throws. You may also choose to place a weapon in a clear, non-polluted source of water, such as a river, and appeal to Vivian for a blessing on that weapon. This weapon becomes a source of inspiration and power as you gain experience. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's cleared up. So while in heavy armor, you get martial weapon proficiency. So, you know, nitpicky stuff, right? I wouldn't call it Blessing of Avalon. I would call it, to mimic other things in 5th edition, I would say bonus proficiencies. You get proficiency in martial weapons and heavy armor, and that's one piece. Then a second thing would say Blessing of Avalon. While in heavy armor, you gain a +1 to saving throws. That's a pretty powerful ability. Because that's always useful, but you do have to restrict yourself to heavy armor, so maybe it's, it's still pretty good. And then I don't know what this, place a weapon in a clear, non-polluted source of water. It will become a source of inspiration and power as you gain experience. I guess that means, like, you could do that, and then later on it'll be better? Let's find out. Channel Divinity at level 2, Waters of Vivian. I'm also assuming I'm pronouncing that right. I could be wrong, but... Water is retrieved from a pure water source to be stored in a skin or other appropriate vessel. Water sources can be a small pond or an enormous lake so long as the water is fresh. This water instantly restores a d10 plus 5 hit points when consumed. Okay. The number of full water skins you can create per day is equal to your wisdom modifier. Okay. If the water is not ingested within 48 hours, the magical effects are nullified and the water cannot be re-blessed. Only fresh water from a suitable source. Oh, here it is. Additionally, you may place your chosen weapon in another pure source of water and appeal to Vivian for an additional blessing, making it a magical +1 weapon. Okay, so that explains what that is. But it sounds like that's just an always-on +1 weapon. I guess it's not too bad. A couple of things I would change here. I would make it 48 hours. That seems a little long. I reduce it to 24. And I'd make it a d10 plus your wisdom modifier in hit points. That way it has more wisdom modifier synergy. But other than that, I think it's fine. The +1 weapon, I might say... Well, we'll keep reading, but I might have delayed that. So, Channel Divinity at level 6. We get another Channel Divinity option, Lesser Restoration. For 1 minute, just single willing creature. For 1 minute, the affected creature regenerates hit points. Lesser Regeneration. Regenerates hit points equal to your wisdom modifier at the end of each of its turn. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points, the spell ends. Lesser restoration does not, lesser regeneration rather, wow, does not grant or recover temporary hit points. Okay, and then this makes the pool makes it a +2 weapon. Okay, and then Divine Justice at level 8. Add your Wisdom modifier to all melee and ranged attack damage you deal. Additionally, if you successfully attack with your Blessed weapon, add an additional 1d8 +4 radiant damage. Target must make a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of its next turn. Yeah, you know, I know people try to get away from the standard, and this may be like an open game license thing, but you're probably better just to do the Divine Strike thing, where once a turn, you can add an extra d8, I guess, of radiant damage with an attack you make with a weapon, and then at 14 it goes up by another d8. I don't know, you might not be able to do that based on, let's see. No, Divine Strike, it's here, so go. That's what I would do. Keep it simple, don't stray. I mean, sometimes it's okay, but for the most part, every cleric in almost every published source from Wizards is either you're going to be a potent cantrips or you're going to be a Divine Strike. And then Prayer for the Fallen Warrior at 17. As a reaction, once per day when an ally within 30 feet of you is reduced to 0 hit points, you may renew the spirit of your ally with the will to fight on. The target regains half its hit points and can stand as a free action. Also, on its next action, your ally has disadvantage on attack, or has advantage rather on attack rolls. Your Blessed Weapon by Vivian becomes a divine weapon once it is placed in a non-polluted source of water and a ritual is performed. The weapon provides advantage on all saving throws to you and allies within 15 feet of you. Undead and fiends are vulnerable to damage dealt by this weapon. That's a lot for a level 17 ability. Especially because, it says once per day as a reaction. So I missed that part at the beginning. That probably in and of itself could be an ability. You might even say you could make that wisdom modifier times per day. But typically your level 17 ability is something that's sort of always on, or it expands an existing ability. So I might just say, if you're truly supposed to be a melee sword wielder here, I'd probably go one or the other. Your weapon becomes like super great. Kind of gives you paladin style buffs, or you can bring people back when they fall. Hey folks, just as a heads up, I ended up cutting out Knight of Avalon. The review was just running too long, so I was trying to save time where I could. So we have a couple of, we have 5 or 6 different locations and mini adventures. You know what? I'm on the Anansi one. Let's do that. So this is for a group of 4 to 6 characters, 1st to 2nd level. And it says, and I like this part here, right? A good mix of classes is recommended. Now, again, 5th edition doesn't necessarily say you need to have an AoE, a damage, a tank, a healer, but this is just giving you a heads up. So, and again, these are really pretty much setting agnostic. You could throw these in anywhere, change the names as needed. Logging Town of Snapped Oak provides lumber for a number of regional towns and cities, and the residents have enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle for years. They're good-hearted people, generous, travelers spend their time there, usually have a good enjoy, think about coming back one day. Charity's not gone unnoticed. For the last few months, the town has been quietly under siege. Band of thieves, posing as traveling carnival, has found a new mark. Only the local priestess, a follower of the trickster god Anansi, is aware of the troubles to her town. True to her worship, she plans to turn the tables on the thieves that will honor her god and end the threat to the Snapped Oak. To Snapped Oak. So they give, we got an adventure hook here. Adventure hook number 1. A wounded young man approaches the party and tells a story about an evil priestess in a nearby town called Snapped Oak, who has the town's residents under her control and steals their wealth. The young man states he is a member of a carnival group that has ambushed. So this is interesting because it actually flips the script. The priestess is actually good and in the town, but these are the bad guys coming and talking to you and saying, oh, it's crazy, you gotta help me take down this priestess. And then it says truth here, right? Anansi has sent the young man a spirit guide after a plea from his priestess for help. He makes his way to a nearby temple after telling his tale and cannot be found again. A party member can attempt a DC 5 Charisma Persuasion or Perception check to gain more information or determine if he's telling the truth. Well, I feel like that should be an insight check, but alright. A success reveals that the priestess keeps her treasure hoard hidden in a chest buried in a field beneath the carnival leader's wagon, and she cannot access her stolen goods. In truth, that's where the chest is hidden, but it was buried there by the carnival leader. Number 2, on the outskirts of Snapped Oak, a wounded acolyte named Isanon, I guess, collapsed on the road. If provided assistance, he tells the story of betrayal. She tells the story of betrayal. She explains that the townsfolk are under the spell of a dark god, and she and the town's priestess have felt the desire to uncover the truth. The evil god has sent a traveling carnival to distract and befuddle the residents' minds. The source of the evil god's power rests in the carnival leader's wagon. If it is found and destroyed, the spell over the town can be removed. The acolyte cries, wails, and makes every attempt to avoid returning to the town. And in truth, there is no dark god, just greed. The carnival leader has a chest of treasure buried in his wagon. On a successful DC 15, I wonder if that's supposed to be DC 15 charisma or perception, because this is over here. The party believes the acolyte's tale, but senses there is something. Yeah, this should be an insight check, not a perception check, but it's fine. Alright, arrival. There are 3 areas of play to explore: the town, the chapel, and the field. The town of Snapped Oak has all its furnishings of a medium town of modest wealth. Inn and tavern are in excellent condition. The customers are friendly but reserved and avoid discussion of the carnival or the priestess. Modest homes hold no secrets. Local business folk put on smiling faces, but again, DC 10 insight check. During a discussion, will reveal with any town folk reveals fear. However, the children of the town are unafraid to speak their minds, so that's always cool. Get the truth from the kids. All right. If you ask about the carnival, roll a d4, and the kids will tell you one of the following things. Do I have it? I have a d4. Let's do it randomly, right? d4. Here we go. 2. The carnival isn't very fun. All they do is juggle and throw knives, but we have to go there every night to watch. And if they ask about the priestess, we got a 3. Miss Finry gave me a doll. Her name is Anna. Isn't she pretty? Characters with a passive perception score 15 or higher notice a holy symbol on the doll. Any successful arcana or intelligence history check of 18 reveal the symbol to be the god of Nancy, god of trickery. All right, and we still have more here, so we're still on page 2 of this, right? The chapel. An arcana or history check, you can spot the symbols of Anansi. Priestess Finry, use cult fanatic stats, chaotic good alignment. Feigns concern and greets the adventurers with caution. She is aware of Anansi's spirit guide, if that's the venture hook. She avoids answering any questions about the carnival, only stating they have provided entertainment to the townsfolk. She excuses herself. I'm actually, as I'm reading through this, I'm not entirely sure who the good or bad guy is. Maybe I missed it in the beginning, but let's keep going. She excuses herself after a short duration, explaining she has a visit planned with local family. She invites the adventurers to rest in the chapel and leaves the door unlocked. If the adventurers investigate the chapel, roll twice on the following table. Oh, here we go. We're rolling again. Got a 4. The group finds a secret compartment beneath the floorboards of the first pew. Inside is a small pouch containing 12 silver, a single gem worth 5 gold, a gold spider worth 50 gold, and a letter from a high priestess praising Finry's good work in the town. From a high priestess. Characters with a passive perception of 12 or higher understand that this is a simple bit of treasure seems consistent with the offerings to a small chapel. All right, and then the field. A large banner. This seems to be where the carnival is. If the adventurers observe the field from afar day or night, roll twice on the following lists. 1 and 1. So we'll just guess there's a central wagon that is never left unattended. It appears to be the wagon of the leader, Antrick. And lastly, we have our resolution here. Oh, I guess I should say if they approach, the adventurers are asked to follow them so Hendrik can explain the delicate situation. The adventurers follow, they're taken to a spot behind the wagons that it's difficult to see from the town and attacked. They choose to leave. Hendrik is notified, and the players are ambushed at a time that is most advantageous to the thieves. See, they said they're called thieves, so I feel like the carnival's the bad guy. Resolution. Finry observes the adventurers from afar at all times. When the adventurers are attacked by the thieves, she provides healing assistance if the fight seems to be going well for the adventurers. She provides... Okay, I guess she is against. She is evil, I guess. Hendrik only exits his wagon if the fight is not going well for the thieves and their numbers reduced to half. Once Hendrik arrives, Finry also makes her appearance, if she's not done so already. At this point, the adventurers must make a decision because Hendrik attempts to convince them that Finry has been stealing from the town and they are protecting the town folk money. until they can run her out of town. He tells the adventurers that his carnival goes from town to town, searching out evil and using the carnival to hide their true intentions. He explains his soldiers believe the adventurers to be agents of Finry. An insight check reveals, okay, so they are the bad guys, I guess. Finry appeals to the players, telling them that the carnival has been blackmailing and threatening the townsfolk with harm if they don't pay up each week. Adventurers ask any questions of Finry about her being tricked or coerced. An insight check reveals deception on her part. The adventurers need to make a decision about whom to believe based... Okay, so they make the choice. Adventurers choose Finry and confront Handtrick and his crew. They fight. When Handtrick drops to half his hit points, he attempts to flee. At the conclusion of the confrontation, the adventurers discover a chest buried beneath the wagon containing jewels and heirlooms that the townsfolk immediately declare to be stolen goods. A reward of 10 GP is given to the town, provided by the townsfolk. If the heroes are grateful and show kindness to the townsfolk, an NC places a gold spider worth 25 GP beneath each adventurer's pillows during the night. See, I like that. That's kind of a cool trickster gaudy thing. And each player gets 800 XP. If the adventurers choose to believe Handtrick, the thieves detect the uncertainty immediately and attack the priestess, yelling phrases such as "Purge the evil," "Death to those who lie to their flock." She fights to the death. Handtrick and his associates turn on the adventurers immediately after the death of the priestess. The adventurers defeat the thieves. The townsfolk inform them of the truth by digging up the chest. Reward the players 500 XP for defeating Handtrick, but Anansi immediately places a curse on a random member of the party that can only be removed with the Remove Curse spell. Until removed, any ally within 30 feet of the cursed character has disadvantage on all saving throws. Oof, that's brutal. Adventurers who research Anansi may attempt to gain his favor and have the curse removed. So let's move on to our appendices. So now we have creatures. And again, as I've stated in other things, how can you go wrong with cool creatures? Also, I don't know how you pronounce this, but this thing is awesome. So this clearly looks to be my guess on the Grecian-style armor that this is Athena's, right? Athena being a goddess of wisdom, owl having symbology to Athena. This thing is cool. And it's like a clockwork magic owl thing. So it could exist in your own homebrew world aside from all of this. Let's take a look. So it is a construct, makes sense, right? It's going to have resistance to non-magic, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, immune to poison, psychic, and then charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poison. See, Athena, I was right. Can use its bonus action to serve as a scout and protector for Athena's allies. All allies within 60 feet get a +2 AC and immunity to any conditions requiring a con save for 1 minute, so it has like an aura of protection. Is incapacitated while in an area of an anti-magic field. If targeted by Dispel Magic, the Clockwork Owl must make a con save against the caster's spell save DC or fall unconscious for a minute. It's magic. It's a construct, so it doesn't need air, food, drink, or sleep. It has flyby like owls do. Advantage on hearing and sight. Perception checks like owls do, and its attacks are considered magic. It can make 2 attacks with its talons. They do a 2d6 +3, nothing too crazy. It does have legendary actions, though. 3 legendary actions. 1 is Clockwork Pulse. It overcharges its clockwork core and releases a pulse of electric energy in a 20-foot cube centered on itself. Each creature within range must make a DC 18 Dex save or take 86 lightning damage. So it is it's like a cube-shaped lightning bolt, essentially. Very cool. And then self-repair for a legendary action, it gets a D6 hit points. Not too bad. I like the creature. I really like the art of the creature. And it's a decent stat block. This could be an enemy. You could tweak this to be an enemy. This could be an ally for your party. I like it. And then I think this is... Okay, special items. So I figure I'll go over Excalibur because... Excalibur, right? So it's an artifact. It's a pretty interesting choice. It can be only granted by Vivian. We've been kind of sticking with that theme, so we'll go with that. +3 longsword. So it ignores resistance to slashing damage, which is a really simple way, I find, to make a weapon that is... Obviously, this is Excalibur, there's more to it, so it's not bland, but that is a very simple way to make a weapon that much cooler and legendary, right? So it's just a +3 longsword. +3 longsword is good, don't get me wrong, by any means, but a +3 longsword by itself is just bland, right? A +3 longsword that just gives you the stats is good. You'll never be upset for that +3 to attack and that +3 to damage, especially if you have access to things that let you, maybe take a hit to, lose some hit, like a great weapon fighting, right? Or a great weapon master. Obviously, it doesn't work with a longsword, but but just having it, whatever that type of weapon, ignore resistance to that weapon's damage type, that just makes it so much cooler. And you can see why this could become like a legendary weapon. It's supposed to be so sharp that it can cut through even the strongest of steel, or you build a legend up like that, and that kind of supports it. While your possession of the sword, Zone of Truth is permanently active, centered on you, DC 18 charisma save. That fits into the lore behind the Lady of the Lake and Arthur and Excalibur, so that's fine. I like that. Additionally, when you're in possession of Excalibur, you are immune to all slashing and bludgeoning damage, even by powerful... See, this is kind of like even by powerful beings that bypass such immunity. The only things I think that can do that are probably gods in this book or other books. You also have a +2 bonus to your charisma score and advantage on persuasion checks. So this is like the ultimate paladin weapon, obviously, right? Like, it's a +3 sword. It's going to give you a bonus to charisma. It doesn't state whether that +2 to charisma will let you go above 20. I'm going to say yes, because this is an artifact. Advantage on persuasion checks. You are probably a knightly type, I assume. And then the Zone of Truth on you all the time. Makes sense. All right, and then we have some spells. So there are a bunch of different spells here, and I read through a bunch of them. But I gotta say, some of them I think do come in a little underpowered. But I think they're okay. So Frostbolt was one I read that I didn't think was too bad, right? So it's a 90-foot bolt. It is a ranged spell attack. It does 2d8 cold damage. So the first thing I thought was like, okay, well, it does 2d8 cold damage. It's got to do something else, because we have Chromatic Orb, which is a first-level spell that can do 3d8, and you get to choose what type of damage. But on a successful hit, they need to make a con saving throw or be slowed. Now, here's my problem. Until the end of its next turn. When you say slowed, do you mean as the slow spell? Because slowed is not a thing in 5th edition. That's not a type of condition that you can apply. Oops. Damn it. Let's jump back to our spells. So slowed is not a condition. I would not say you are affected as though the slow spell. One, because I don't know if slow is something in the open game license. But I would just list the like what slow does, right? You can only take in one action or reaction, blah, blah, blah. And then you must make another con saving throw. If the second con save fails, you are frozen, and then it says immobilized. Again, immobilized is not a condition in 5th edition. That could be incapacitated, perhaps, is probably what I'm going to guess. It could be restrained, could be petrified. Those are all options, but immobilized is not one. I think I get what it's trying to go for. They can make the save at the end of the turn to remove the effect. So not petrified. Probably an incapacitated, you can't take actions or reactions, so I don't feel like if you get knocked unconscious, you can't move. So my guess is you are affected with the effects of the slow spell, and then instead of immobilized, you are restrained. I think that's what it's going for, and if so, the lesser damage of only 2d8 makes a lot of sense. Okay. Then let us see what we've got here. I like Lightning Strike a lot because it is essentially, if there's a Flame Strike, I believe it's called, is the cleric spell that's like a 40-foot cylinder tornado of fire and radiant damage. This is essentially that, except it's lightning instead of fire, which works out well. Again, I'm sure it's probably tied to Thor. Makes sense to me. Let's see. Oh, this one I saw, See the Unseen. Originally I didn't like it, and then I reread it. So it's for the duration. It lasts up to an hour, because originally I was like, See Invisibility is a 2nd level spell. But you and your allies within 10 feet are able to see creatures and objects which are magically or non-magically invisible. So it's like a See Invisibility, or it's like a mass See Invisibility. So a bunch of people can get access to it. But Sunray is another one that I saw that I was not too keen on, because there's a caveat, right? So it works out to 90 feet. You lift your hand and your fingers shoot a brilliant ray of sunlight, make a ranged spell attack, and you do 2d6 radiant damage. The only problem is their Guiding Bolt is a 1st level spell with 120-foot range, and it does 46 radiant damage. Now, it says when you cast a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, you can create 1 additional ray for each spell slot above 2nd. Each additional ray does 2d6. So what my thoughts are is this is supposed to be Scorching Ray, but radiant damage. But when I read this, it only shoots 1 ray. I think it should be 3 rays, like Scorching Ray. So this is a radiant version rather of Scorching Ray, but it shoots radiant rays instead. Because it says you lift your hand toward your foe and from your fingers shoot a brilliant ray of sunlight. Make a ranged spell attack roll. On a hit, they take 2d6 radiant damage. So if each time you cast it above, you're going to do an additional ray, but Scorching Ray does 3 right out the gate. So this, I think, was supposed to mimic that. And if not, then Guiding Bolt is just this spell, but better. Although it's single target as opposed to multi-target. We have a couple weapons here, right? We have the stats for a katana, which is essentially just a finesse version. They have it in here as a finesse version of a longsword, right? It does a d8 slashing damage, although it is a two-handed weapon that does a d8, but you can use your strength or dex. And then there's a Makana staff, right? It's a staff with a stone chunk or something as the head. It can be plain or ornate. It's a two-handed weapon that deals a d10 bludgeoning damage, which is interesting because we don't really have two-handed d10 weapons, which I think is a travesty. Oh, and then this is what I kind of want to look at. Gifts of Valor. This was it. So these are essentially, I did a whole video on epic boons, things you can get once you reach level 20, or maybe if the DM feels like giving them to you. But see, these Gifts of Valor, special powers available to characters of 20th level and above. They provide a way for players to get more options, because if you're getting XP at level 20, it's kind of pointless. Typically, Gifts of Valor are awarded for every 30,000 XP a character gains above 355,000. So let's take a look at a couple of these, because these are new epic boons, and some of them are very much what we saw in the the Dungeon Master's Guide, but some of them are more like roleplay aspect, and I think they could be really fun. Like the Gift of Expedient Harvest. You may ripen an area of crops up to 1 square mile. The crops mature and ripen overnight. You may use this gift once per long rest. That could be, like, for a 20th level, like Druid, for example, like, that's perfect. That gives you so much cool roleplay mechanics. You're also playing a game in this theory at level 20, so I don't really know. There's not a lot of things designed for 20th level play. Obviously, all of the books from Jetpack 7 and a lot of other folks that I've reviewed things on the channel do give you options to do 20th level and beyond. But that's like a really cool roleplay concept that could really, I feel like if you're in a heavy roleplay game, rather than just like all combat, that could be really big. Gift of Mastery is an increase to your proficiency bonus by 2. That one's bananas. Let's see, Gift of Perfect Shot. Your attacks with ranged weapons deal maximum damage. Not too bad. Ranged weapons typically don't do a ton of damage anyway. Let's see. Gift of Telepathy. You're able to telepathically communicate with humanoids within 20 feet using languages you both know. This one's interesting. Gift of the Devoted Follower. You gain the service of a 10th level fighter who is your adoring follower. They serve you until death, believing that your fates or your deity have drawn you together. That's pretty cool. That reminds me of like the Knight, I think, or the Veteran, whatever the card, the Deck of Many Things card that gives you the service of a fighter. And this is just like a beefed up version of that. And then lastly, Gift of Whirling Blades. We'll look at, you gain the Dual Wielder feat if you do not already know it. Your attacks with weapons that deal slashing damage deal maximum damage, which is very cool. And then we have some NPCs here. I'm not really going to go through these. These are basically clerics or paladins of the deities that we already discussed. Let's keep going. And then that's the legal information. And then we are done. So, as I stated, this is Gods and Goddesses Redux. I unfortunately didn't get the original Gods and Goddesses, so I don't know what is Redux in the Redux version of Gods and Goddesses. But it is out there. It is available. I think it's $34.99 is the retail price for the hardcover. So, what I did want to tell you is that if you use the coupon code NERDImmersion, all one word, you'll get 10% off anything you buy on the Jetpack 7 website. So, if you want to go and check out this Gods and Goddesses Redux. If you want to check out any of the other things like Masters and Minions or Legendary Dragons, or pick up that DM screen that I did a video on as well, you can go over to the Jetpack 7 website right now and do that. And if you use Nerd Immersion as your coupon code, you'll get 10% off. So hopefully, I mean, at the very least, like I said, the gods and stuff in here and is very cool stuff. And I mean, like, the NPCs are always good. The new creatures, I'm a big fan. The lore is excellent. Obviously, again, the art is phenomenal. So if you need a little quarantine reading, this is not a bad place to start. And again, the other Jetpack 7 products, also very good if you would like to check those out as well. So once again, thanks to my good friends at Jetpack 7 for sponsoring this video and sending me the book in hardcover to take a look at. If you guys like this, again, there'll be links for all of it in the description. And if you haven't taken a chance to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. We are moving on to some new or like additional content now, going back more to top 10s and fixing 5e and all that kind of stuff is coming out soon. So be sure to keep an eye on the channel, and I will see you all next time.